Welcome back, my name is Benji, and today I want to welcome you to Pro Cycling Manager 2021. In today's video, I'll be covering all the new features of the game, and I'll try and give you my first impressions of each and every single one. In all honesty, Pro Cycling Manager is known for not having amazing updates compared to the previous game. 2021 in comparison to 2020 does not have too many improvements, and in all honesty, it might as well be a $10 patch. They finally added the European Championships. It's been highly requested for years now, but it is now in. In addition to the actual road race and time trial in the game, you've also got the winner wearing the actual European Championships jersey throughout the season after winning the race. You've also got it defaulted to the actual winners in 2020. Another race related feature is that they now added, finally, proper echelons into the game. For years it's been very difficult to form an echelon in game, but now it's available because we have the exposed wind zones. It is, for example, in this stage in Paris-Nice, 19 kilometers where the wind will pick up quite a bit and you're able to split up the peloton if you put a high pressure on it. This is available in a lot of the 2021 parcours, for example in Paris-Nice, also in the first stage here. We've got it in the Tour de France as well on the Châteauroux stage, stage 6, but also on the Mont Ventoux stage. There's echelons on top of the Mont Ventoux. Like in real life, there's a lot of wind on top of the Mont Ventoux because it's an open space. Sometimes it has its effect. Very nice feature. I think it's also available in the classics. For example, in Gent-Wevelgem is one that I noticed with huge echelon sections in the Moeren, which I am looking forward to, but also in between the actual hills. My goodness, this could be really fun to ride. Lastly, they also added one stage in the Vuelta that is entirely echelons except for like the middle 20 kilometers to give a small rest. In terms of the in-race part of this, it's quite simple. You basically start a stage with around 15 to 20 km/h wind speed, and then a few kilometers later, once you actually go into the echelon zone, then it starts peaking up instantly to like 40-45 wind speed, which is a bit unrealistic. It should be more gradual in my opinion, but that's not the case. It's like in 5 seconds it goes from like 20 to 45. But it does really have an effect, definitely on these flat stages. If you hammer it with your own team, then the peloton is going to hurt and it's going to split up very, very easily, even on extreme difficulty. The thing is, if you let the AI do it, they tend to wait a bit longer until like the last 30 kilometers of a echelon section, because then they feel more safe to do it, stuff like that. They don't necessarily start with an echelon the second they go into that section, but I do. The third feature that goes across game modes is the fact that they changed the way time trials work in race, which I'm not sure I needed that change, and I'll just show you and explain what I feel about it. Here we go, Van Aert is on the road, and let me talk to you about the new mechanics basically of the time trial in 3D race. On the left you can see 3 bars now. First of all, the distance to the finish line, so that's the one you also had last year. We also had the second bar, which was basically the energy you had to finish the race. But now we've got the red bar as well. So it's basically become very similar towards both the road race aspect of PCM and the Tour de France game, because we've also got a red bar there. This means that we need to just be more clever about how we spend our energy, when we spend our energy, because the yellow bar still needs to survive till the finish line, while the red bar is something we need to try and use on sections where it is just mattering. So on the uphill section, for example, it would be ideal to use Van Aert and try and hammer it a bit with his red bar so that it's empty by the time we start the descent afterwards, because then we can fully recover that. I think that I didn't need it to change, which is I think the most important part. There's other things in PCM that I would have found much more valuable to put dev time into to actually fix, but this is not one of those. So that's the sad aspect. Nonetheless, I do think this is very interesting because this is such a tactical change, so that you need to tactically approach hilly time trials like this one, rolling hills and so forth. I think on flat time trials, it's basically staying on the same level for the entire stage and then using red in the last 500 meters to actually completely spend that for a bit of a sprint. I think that's how that would work. This is what I meant with what you can do on flat stages. The yellow bar is done, but you can still use the red to try and go for a little bit of a sprint in the last few meters and try and hope that that is doing well. We actually won the... No! It said first! It said first and now I'm second! This game is lying to me. I got robbed. Oh my god. This is a bloody joke. Anyway, those were the main changes in terms of the, well, race side of things. Let's dive into career mode and look into those changes. When starting up career mode, you can directly see one small thing on the dashboard screen that gives away one of the features that has been added to career mode. That is this green and red line at the bottom in the planner. Those two lines are related to your objectives, your rider objectives, but let's give that a look. As you can see, Pro Cycling Manager 2021 has completely replaced the old rider objective system. We now have a screen of objectives with two tabs, Overview and Riders. The difference is pretty simple. The Overview gives an overview of all the riders in one column with their goals next to it. Now you might notice in the historical 2020 version of the game we had 3 objectives per rider. Now you don't have that limit anymore, you can do more. And I haven't tested the absolute max of it, but I know that 10 is definitely possible. Who knows, someone should try it, just like add all the races in the season and see how the game reacts to it. But for now, I'm really loving how it looks. It's much more logical to me. You've got one place where you can see what the objectives are for riders, and I adore that. Then we have the Riders tab as well. The Riders tab is also quite explainable by its name. Here you can select your rider at the left top. We've got Mikkel Bjerg selected in the list. And Mikkel Bjerg has the following objective set: Milano-San Remo, Paris-Roubaix, the Giro, Denmark Championships, and Il-Lombardia. We can remove Il-Lombardia, for example, if we don't think it fits, because it really does not fit. And then we can add an objective. Let's select the Benelux Tour, which is the Bing Bang Tour, and we've got that added. On the right of the rider screen, you can see a schedule, a year-long schedule where these objectives are shown in a beautiful manner. Now, there's also something next to that. You don't only see the objectives, you also see the races that are not objectives, like the Ruta de San Juan for Mikkel Bjerg. There's one thing I really don't like, it's the fact that if I want to add San Juan that he's scheduled for as an objective, I need to click on the plus button, I need to scroll through whatever category it's in and select the race. What if we could just simply click on some button on the right or something related to that on this Ruta de San Juan thing, and that automatically adds it as an objective? Then I can easily just do the planner for the entire year for all the riders, and then on the objective screen just select which objectives we want of the ones I've got planned in. So much easier. It's not like I've got amazing knowledge on how UX and interface should be done, but it would have been such a small thing to implement, and it would have made it so much better than it is now. And that's what I don't like about this overview and rider screen. The fact that it's just not optimized to quickly use it. Let me make clear that I do like the system. The system is good, but there's these tiny tweaks that could happen to make it 20 times better. You can also see that that green and red line is back under the races. And that's also pretty significant for this, because this defines your fitness around those races. The green line means that you're gonna be near 100% fitness basically. At least that's your target in that region of time. Then afterwards you've got a red line, which means you've got break weeks in your training, like we had in PCM 2020 that you had to manually put on a rider. But it's now automatic, which I adore. I do wonder what happens if we put 2 races close to each other. So we've got like Paris-Roubaix on the 10th of April or 11th of April. Let's see if we can put something like Scheldeprijs near that. There we go, Schelde Tour Vlaanderen, 7th, so that's very close. That means that both races seem to have a green fitness target around it, which means that they're going to be in form for both. What if we put one, I guess, at the start of this month, I guess? Let's do the Tour of Flanders, for example, because I'm trying to find like the limits of this right now while we're at it. Yeah, that becomes an issue. That becomes an issue because you're basically... Oh god. Is this a bug? Or not? I don't know. We've got Tour of Flanders, Schelde Tour, and then Paris-Roubaix afterwards. And for my third target, we're having break weeks, while I'm able to do an entire Giro, for example. What if we take away Milano-San Remo It doesn't change a thing. I think this is buggy. Honestly, personally, I think this is buggy because on paper, if we peak for Tour of Flanders, we should be able to also peak for Paris-Roubaix. That's my honest opinion about that. And the fact that we can peak for 4 weeks in a Giro definitely proves that. So yeah, that's basically it when it comes to how the objective system works now. It's very simple, which is good because I never did it on the previous games. Honestly, I never ever did rider training in career mode because I just couldn't care less. This format I really love. Only see the objectives, only shows the objectives. Pretty obvious one. On the left bottom you can also see riders with similar objectives assigned to your rider that you're currently on. So all pretty obvious, just a bit buggy in terms of when your break weeks are. So those are small tweaks they should still look into. But again, this is not the definitive version of the game that I'm playing on, so perhaps on the first day of release this might already be fixed. One thing that is not really synchronized between the planner and the actual objectives of a rider is the fact that when a rider is unavailable, like Tom Dumoulin default in the game is, for the first 6 months of the season, Dumoulin is unable to do races, which is, I guess, realistic compared to real life where he took a break from cycling and is returning for the Tour de Suisse. Now, the unfortunate thing is that the objectives don't care. The game has decided to put him on the Super Giro d'Italia, which runs while he is unavailable. So it seems like this is a bit of a plot hole that they missed out on when actually implementing the objectives. So if you're interested, I might actually make a video on how to make Tom Dumoulin available if you like to play with him in career mode without this 6-month unavailability. BCM actually implemented something that is happening in real life as well in terms of the UCI ranking and the wildcards given accordingly. In real life, when you're World Tour, you get forced access to all the World Tour races. If you're first in the second division of cycling, the Conti Pro division, then you have the option of going to each of the World Tour races. If you're second in that division, you have the option of going towards the Classics races. And, well, that's now available in the game. As you can see from the email on the screen, race invitation bonuses Saya World Tour. For this season, the following teams of the Continental Pro Division receive a bonus. Alpes and Phoenix has priority on invitations for all races on the Saya World Tour calendar. And Arkea Samsic has the same, but that is for all the one-day races, so the classics of the season. For 2022, they will be allocated to the first 2 teams of the Conti Pro Division on the basis of the Super Prestige ranking at the end of the current season. It's good that they're taking over real-life things and actually implementing real-life things because that makes the game more realistic and representative of what actual cycling is doing right now when it comes to what UCI is deciding these days. In PCM 2021, the team's page of career mode is also completely different from PCM 2020. They revamped it and it was necessary in my opinion. Last year we had that tile system with the jerseys on it and I didn't like that because you barely could find anything if you even tried. Now it's all more clear, it's easy to access and you can find stuff so easily. On the left you've got the teams, you can switch division to see the teams of Conti Pro for example, same for Conti and also for U23, which is, I love it. I generally love this small feature that they added this page because it gives so much more for people that like the data behind everything. And in the riders tab, we've got information about the riders, so the stats, the victories, their classification in the ranking. Then under career, we can find their participations in certain races, the top-notch races like, well, monuments and grand tours. We can also see their career victories, which means that they must have added so much data behind the scenes, or it was already in there but never shown properly. Then we have race schedule, the third tab under the riders tab. This is also pretty cool because it shows more data of the current schedule. Days raced so far, you can also see that for other teams now. A breakdown of the days between World Tour and Conti. Not sure if this is going to be useful at any point, but you've got 100% World Tour races so far for Van Avermaet, as he has only done the Tour Down Under a bit. 0% in Pro Conti and Conti races because he's not done any of that. One thing that I noticed is that the last race column is a bit bugged because it shows the Tour Down Under in literally every rider's column except for the ones that have done a different race. And then we've got the Australian flag before certain ones, which probably means that those are the ones who actually rode the Tour Down Under. We can also see if they're going to ride the Giro, the Tour de Vuelta. The planner has not yet done that for the AI, nor for my own team. So you cannot see anything here yet, but this will fill up the moment that the planner has done that. Under the second tab, you can see the calendar of that team for the season, how well they did in certain races, and who their best rider was that actually did something in those races. The next tab is the results tab. Here we can basically see the results of the team so far. We can see top 10s only, go towards top 5, top 3, or even only victories, but none of that yet on UAE Team Emirates here. We can also go to history, which is in my opinion just an overview of the previous sponsors and how well they did in that season. But it seems like the data is not shown for historical seasons, so most likely it just starts the moment that you start a career. If you go to the next season, it will show it for the first season that you did. Anyway, pretty simple add-on, but I like it. It's a full replacement of the old one, which I didn't like, and now I like it, so I guess I'm pretty happy about this change. Just like in PCM 2020, you've got a national team you can control in the career mode. Once we go to the national team page after accepting our team of Slovenia, we will see that this is completely different. The national teams page got completely revamped, and on this one we can see so much more. In the past you could barely see anything. Now you can actually see the variants of the races that are going to happen. For now we've got the Trentino parcours of the European Championships. We've also got the World Championships ITT in Knokke-Heist and Brugge, and Leuven as the finish of the World Championships. Obviously they still don't have the license to get the actual rainbow of the UCI because they're asking a lot of money for that, is my guess, which I wouldn't pay if I was a developer, if we could just use a different flag. Anyway, we also have an overview of the important dates, and that's good because we now know when we can expect emails for national selections and stuff, and by what time we need to have our final selections done. And all this stuff is pretty cool because we had no clue when it would come unless we knew the game by heart in previous years. So it's awesome to have more information about it. It's awesome that the page is revamped. In addition to this page, we can also go to the races individually at the top and select the riders probably in this page to go to certain races. One thing that's a bit confusing on this page in my opinion is that they've got the flags for the teams and not for the riders. I was thinking, oh, there's a lot of Bahraini riders in the Slovenian national team suddenly, but yeah, it's just very confusing. Nonetheless, I enjoy this change. Like, these are all pretty minor changes that are adding different screens to the management side of Pro Cycling Manager, but the thing I enjoy the most about Pro Cycling Manager is the management side. So for me, this is really good. There's another relatively minor change in career mode, that when you go to a rider, you can now go towards the results page, which I think is under season 2021, yes. And then we can view more information. We can see how well he did in each stage, but in a much more beautiful fashion. We can see where he was in the points classification, the youth classification, and it just has more data, and the more data you have in a management game, the better the management game. A minor change I noticed in career mode is that we now have a new loading animation going from one day to another. I'm thinking that is the same in Pro Cyclist, but I'm having to check that after making this video because I haven't actually checked out Pro Cyclist yet because there's nothing new in it. So anyway, that's a small change. It doesn't add too much to the game. I'm not sure why they put their time into it because there's so much more they could have done with that time. At the top you can now see the races in a more tile version, I guess, instead of a list version. I don't know. Not sure what it adds. There we go. That's my first impressions video of Pro Cycling Manager 2021. It's just not good enough for the players. The saddest part about that is that the game is basically still alive because the community put so much time into it. It's not because of the yearly releases, no, it's because thousands of hours of community members putting time into databases, stages, people trying to actually do tournaments in multiplayer, a game mode that has been neglected by the developers for years now. But yeah, it's PCM and I like playing it the way it is, which kind of puts me in between two fires because I like the game the way it is, but it doesn't value its community in a way that it should be, and that annoys the crap out of me. I hope that anyone at Knock-On or Cyanide is listening to this because it really frustrates me. It frustrates 99% of the community. I notice that in every Discord I'm in. I notice that in every comment section of a PCM video, that there's always a few comments that say, haven't played PCM or bought it in 3 years because this is still broken. And they're right. They're not wrong with complaining about it. They're right in actually talking about the issues that are at hand. And you need to find a way to fix that, or at least be transparent about it. Because right now the communication is just lacking. This game has had no marketing in the English community. A 4 bullet point tweet. Let's be real. The biggest feature in this video to me is the echelons. It's not even on the Steam description. It's the tone deaf description on Steam. It's like the people that are writing that don't have a clue what the players want, nor what the players are actually enjoying about their release. How can you not know while making this game or while publishing this game, how can you not know that that feature is literally the one that the people are going to be very interested in? Fuck's sake. Anyway, that's my review. Goodbye.